everyone, welcome into the American Huddle alongside Andy Gresh. I'm Haley Outen, and Andy, we have to start off today's show by taking a look back at College Game Day on the UCF campus. It was the first time an American Conference football matchup has been featured on Game Day. How impressive was the crowd that turned out early Saturday morning?
It was fantastic. You didn't even need a lazy river to get people to show up there. They were filing in at 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, look at that. That's a big-time collegiate atmosphere, and it's about time that the folks at the Four Letter Network decided to feature a team from the American Athletic Conference and a matchup from the American. And the signs, I mean, it's like UCF waited forever to roll out these signs.
Look at that, College Game Day just asking you to love us, and the UCF fans have been asking for this, and Game Day finally listened and made their way to the UCF campus. In fact, it was one of the largest crowds that Game Day has ever seen, but it was also one of the most amount of signs they've ever seen, and they had some fun with the signs, these UCF fans
did, and Herb Street deserved to get hammered for screwing up the way he did when they announced the whole thing. But it's great that ESPN put the notoriety and the spotlight on the American Athletic Conference. I love the 22 win. There's a lot of recount signs that were there. That's a good taco fall. The basketball people will be happy. It's the night time to expand the playoff. Of course, for those who were following on Twitter on Saturday, you learned that UCF is the Knights, not the Golden Knights. And of course, there was always a good poop sign, which made television as well. And it's not a College Game Day if you don't have a poop sign.
Of course. The signs did not disappoint, and one of the moments that everybody was anticipating was Lee Corso and the headgear. But when it came time to put on the headgear, Lee Corso was nowhere to be found in his normal spot on the set, and instead you see him right here, full nitro suit in the middle of Memory Mall. I mean, we don't see that happen every single day.
No. Now, if we can get one of those to fit someone that's almost 6'6" like me, I would throw that thing on for, say, a championship game or, you know, one of the New Year's Six Bowls. But it was, look, UCF has earned this, Haley, and I think it's one thing that we talk about here all the time. What do they have to do to get on the national radar? And when you win more than 20 games in a row, they deserve the notoriety and the attention that they're getting. And I'm starting to think with what happened nationally in college football and some of the games and matchups that we have this weekend, UCF might have a puncher's chance to just crash this party if a lot of other things go their way.
Definitely something to keep an eye on as we head into the final week of the regular season. But hey, we have to give a shout out to those UCF students because they were out there in Memory Mall for hours. They got out there early, brought one of the biggest crowds, but then they showed up at 8 p.m. Eastern to provide an electric environment in front of a primetime crowd. UCF winning that one 38-13 over Cincinnati. But Andy, let's talk about the defense because they held Cincinnati to just 6 points in the first 3 quarters. In fact, those points coming from the UC defense. What statement does that send from a group that has been questioned throughout this season?
You know, we've talked a lot here on the American Huddle about team victories and winning in all 3 phases. And I think we're starting to see that more and more from UCF. You know, Haley, when people want to pick at this team, it's the whole, well, it's Mackenzie Milton and what? Well, and the end what is they've got 2 other phases to that football team that are as big and as important as Mackenzie Milton, the quarterback for UCF. So to me, it's continuing to put together the resume. And look, we knew that for Cincinnati, this was kind of a level jump for them. Okay, Luke Fickell's had a great year. They can still go on and do great things. They weren't at the level of UCF because UCF is ready to play the quote-unquote big boys. And unfortunately, the ink-stained wretches of this country who cover college football and those people in the college football committee, they're not going to get it right unless there's chaos. So this week, we root for chaos.
One of the players you expected a big performance from was quarterback Mackenzie Milton, and he accounted for 4 total touchdowns to help extend the nation's longest winning streak to 23 games. How did Milton handle the pressure in the end?
He was great, Haley, and he was what you would have expected someone who was a preseason Heisman candidate to be. And look, Mackenzie Milton, it's been a little up and down this year. Not so much with his play, but in terms of injuries and out of the lineup, some transition there with a new head coach. To think that UCF went through all of that and they're still sitting here at 23 in a row with a chance to win another American Conference championship and to be able to maybe crash that college football playoff party, you got to be excited for what UCF has done, not only for themselves as a brand, but in raising the whole American Conference with it.
UCF has secured the right to host the American Championship for the second straight season. They'll await the winner of Houston and Memphis, who both won key games last week to stay alive in this race. They'll battle on Friday for the West Division crown. But let's talk about Houston. They came up with the win over Tulane. Ed Oliver didn't play again, but more importantly, quarterback De'Aaron King got injured in the second quarter, and he's going to miss the rest of the season with a knee injury. However, Andy, what was the difference that allowed Houston to come out on top in this must-win game?
I think Houston has been through some strain. So without Ed Oliver, then they lose De'Aaron King. They sort of took that punch in the nose. They went in at halftime. They regrouped, and they showed maturity as a football team and a coaching staff. And everybody is going to make a big deal about the extracurricular stuff at Houston and make a big deal that De'Aaron King isn't going to be around. That's a good football team, and they proved it this weekend that they can deal with some issues. I think it also kind of highlighted too, Haley, that Tulane is a program on the rise, but they're just not there yet. They're healthily in the middle of the American. Let's see if they can jump into being a top 4 team next year. I think the foundation is set for Willie Fritz and crew down in New Orleans.
Tulane still a chance to become bowl eligible this season. But Andy, how about that Houston defense?
Right.
Even without Ed Oliver, they forced 4 turnovers.
Yeah, and I think that's the transition that Tulane's going through as well. We mentioned the young kid McMillan at a quarterback. They need to get more out of their passing game. So when you're playing with a young QB, you're trying to develop the passing game. And look, for Tulane, this was, well, one of the toughest games they were going to play all year, given the time in the season and the environment with which they were playing in. Hey, this Houston defense has got the ability to strip the football. If they get Ed Oliver back out there, we know they can slow down the run, because next week they're going to deal with a team who we know can really run it in Memphis.
In Memphis, as you just mentioned, a team that had to win on Friday night against SMU, and it was a weird game. It was a slow start for both teams, but how solid was the defensive effort as well from Memphis?
Yeah, I thought they were great. They were getting hands on footballs. They were stripping footballs out. You know, offensively, they were no great shakes, but that's just a hard hit right there, separating a ball carrier from the football. And you mentioned it was weird. You know, you have interceptions here, and then the ball comes out, right? So the ball was kind of flipping and flopping and flying all over the place during this game between Memphis and SMU. And it really came down to which team made less mistakes and which team had the ability to run the ball. And in the end, that was Memphis.
Temple, who trailed 17-0 at halftime against USF, scored all of their points in the second half, 27 unanswered, despite only scoring 1 offensive touchdown. How much has special teams and defense been the identity of this team?
Yeah, I'm sitting here going, well, what else is new? Temple scored a bunch of non-offensive touchdowns. What a surprise. But I think that's Jeff Collins' group this year. And we mentioned this as Temple got better and better during the season, that this becomes an ingrained part of your football team. We know they made the transition to quarterback, and I think the emphasis they put on special teams, but more importantly, the pride of all 11 guys. You can have a great returner. You can have 10 guys who don't give a crap, and you're never going to be able to return the ball. Not at Temple.
Andy, in your opinion, who are some of these top contenders for Player of the Year candidates?
Well, I mean, De'Aaron King, I thought, had the inside track. Now, again, he'll miss the final conference game. We'll see if they play in the American Conference Championship game. I still got to think De'Aaron King may end up having the lead in the clubhouse. I think Darrell Henderson, the running back of Memphis, has put up such a great year. He's another one of these guys. I don't know, Haley. I don't know where, say, Mackenzie Milton fits in, because he's been dinged up. We know the success UCF has had. So my thought is that it's still De'Aaron King. One of the running backs from either Temple or Memphis might be able to jump in there. But I got to think, considering he was responsible for 50 touchdowns this year, it's hard not to look at De'Aaron King and think he had the best offensive season. And will that lead to voters giving him the Conference Player of the Year?
Yeah, those 50 touchdowns actually lead the FBS, so it's a shame to see the quarterback go down in the second to last game of the regular season. But we're going to keep this discussion going as the final week of the regular season rolls on. Join us back here on Wednesday. We'll have a special edition of the American Huddle. Looking forward to Friday and Saturday's games before we take a little break for Thanksgiving.
There we go.
All right, we'll see you back here on Wednesday. Have a great week.